When you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner, the government doesn't tell you what success is. There's not a boss out there telling you what success is. There's not a third-party vendor out there telling you what success is. It's you. You get to define success. And that is exciting at first, until somebody says, well, what is success? Tell me what that looks like. What's up, Hard Chargers, and welcome back to another episode of Hodgepodgepreneur with me, Kyle Miller. I'm very excited this week because this week is all about a business plan. And the business plan is something that I think a lot of people may feel is overwhelming, or there's a lot more to it than what their expertise calls for, which is why I feel like it's perfect for our channel. It basically shows the foundational reason that our channel would exist, because a business plan is foundational for starting a business. Now, I do think that there are actually three types of business plans, and you won't find this in a textbook, but I think that there is a business plan where you're asking for money, and that could be from a bank or from an actual investor, or there's a business plan where you're trying to convince somebody that they should partner with you and join in on this and devote time and effort and sweat equity. And then the third one, which is what we're going to cover, is an actionable business plan. And an actionable business plan is different from the other two in the fact that the other two are meant to convince other people that they should join your business or that they should invest in your business. The actionable business plan that we're going to cover is about putting action behind what you're doing. The other two business plans, they have a lot of fluff, they have a lot of extra pages in there, a lot of things that don't have anything to do with your actual first day of being open or your third quarter of being open. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put together a business plan that is meant for your first year. It's meant for action and putting action behind it. And I have actually provided a template down below, so make sure you click and download that. That is a free template, and you don't have to provide your email address. So I'm not going to solicit you later. You don't have to provide any kind of information for me. But if you download that business plan and that business plan template and you follow along with what I'm saying in these series, then you'll find that at the end of it, you actually have done everything you needed to do to move forward with starting your business. So I think I said it, but we're going to release one every other day. So that way you have a day to view it, digest it, another day to put action behind it, another day to view it, digest it, put action behind it. So that's how we're going to do it. And we'll keep them short, anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes. So these aren't going to be hour-long segments or anything like that. So I'm very excited about it, and let's hop into it with section 1. All right, section 1 is the company setup and the description. The business name is actually a very important and super foundational part of opening your business. And I'll give you at least 3 pieces of advice that I have gotten along the way on choosing a name for a business. So advice piece number 1 is don't name the business after yourself if it's not absolutely necessary. And the reason for that is because you don't know what's going to go on later on. And if later on you want to sell the business and you've named it Kyle Miller Enterprise or Kyle Miller Real Estate or Kyle Miller Insurance, then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find somebody who's going to be willing to take the name Kyle Miller Insurance, Kyle Miller Real Estate. And more than likely, that's going to really limit the number of buyers that you can get out there. If you've built everything around the brand Kyle Miller and the name Kyle Miller, it's very difficult for other people to jump on board with that. So you've limited your scope of buyers. So that's piece of advice number 1. Piece of advice number 2 is name the company something that people can tell what it is you do just by reading the name. So for example, the franchise that I bought into was called Real Property Management. You knew just by reading the name that we managed real estate. We managed rental properties. And so it was really helpful, and you know that the franchise had to put a lot of thought into that to invest so much as to have a lot of people buy into that name. So the name itself tells people what we do, which brings me to the third point, and that is your name should ideally be something that is keyword search engine optimized. And what I mean by that is that there are certain keywords when you search for whatever service or product it is that you provide or offer, there are certain keywords that will help people to find you whenever they're looking for just that simple service. So again, you couldn't Google real property management in South Carolina without having us pop up because our name has the keywords in it that they're looking for. So that's my points of advice for picking out a name for the company. The next one is the legal structure. And you do want to give some consideration and background check to the legal structure. And I would highly recommend talking to somebody who knows about taxes, who knows about the legal requirements for each setup in your specific state. Okay, LegalZoom is a good outlet for this, but if you could talk to a local attorney, if you could talk to a local accountant, that would be good. Now, the reason I say that is because there is a difference in how you're taxed as an S Corp, a difference in how you're taxed as a C Corp, a difference in how you're taxed as a sole proprietor. And your individual income outside of the business, so let's say that your spouse makes money and you make money and the business is on the side, it will determine different tax brackets, and so therefore how much money is going to get taxed whenever you bring it over. So it is a little bit of a cat and mouse game there. And so you're going to want to talk to some experts on that and consult them, and then make the best decision after you've gotten their input. But I will say that you do want a legal structure set up, which means going to your Secretary of State. If you Google Secretary of State for whatever state you're in, there should be some spots in there on how to set up your business entity with the Secretary of State. And then you need to go to the IRS website. You can just Google this and say, IRS EIN number registration. And you can get a EIN number online in less than 24 hours. It's usually there within the next hour or 2 hours in your email. So you'll need an EIN number, which is an employer identification number. And then you'll need to set up your limited liability or C Corp or whatever it is, sole proprietor, whatever it is you want to set up so that you can be recognized by the state. Okay, so, and the reason you want to do that is because it protects you legally as long as you treat everything like it should be. And if you think about it, whenever you start a business, you are creating a person. It has a date of birth, which is given to it by the Secretary of State that says, hey, on this day, we recognize that this thing is alive. And then it has a social security number in the way of an EIN number, which is given by the federal government the same way that your social security number is given. So there's the legal entity and the business name. The next thing that you're going to want to talk about, and all this is on the template, I'm just going down the template as we go. Talk about the problem that you're going to solve with your product or service. So every consumer has a pain point or a point of pleasure, and it is your job as somebody who's putting out a product or putting out a service to be able to provide a relief to that pain point or an amplification to that pleasure. So if somebody likes roller coasters and you have a roller coaster, there you go. There is you saying, hey, you like roller coasters, I have one, let's exchange money. If it is something where they say, I have this itch, and you say, well, I have this cream, and then let's exchange money, right? So what problem specifically is it that you're looking to solve with your product or service, and how is it that you expect that this problem would be solved by your product or service? So, for example, the first business I opened was a property management company. We managed rental properties for absent owners, investors, or what we called reluctant landlords who didn't really mean to become landlords. So they couldn't sell the property or they inherited the property, and so they needed to rent it out and they don't know anything about it. So what we would do is we would find various pain points in the sales process and show where our product or service, in this case, would be able to relieve that pain. So our pay-per-click guy, he would always go out and he would search for people who were already looking for keywords like how to do an eviction, right? And whenever he would look for that, then that would tell us the pain point that this person was having, and hey, we know how to do an eviction. You don't have to learn how to do it. We have a lawyer on retainer. He does them for us. It's not a big deal. We've done a few of them. We can help you out. We can relieve that pain for you. So that's how we relieve the pain, and that is what pain we relieved. So you got to determine what products you're going to provide for the pain that somebody's having and how it relieves that pain. And writing that down on paper is important because it gets your thoughts down onto paper and makes you say it in a coherent way, so that way later on when somebody says, why should I buy your product or service, you have an explanation already there and set, ready to go, and then you just build on that as you grow. It'll be easier and easier to answer those questions as you grow. But when you first start off, you definitely want to have that written down so that you know how to answer those questions when they come in. Next thing is define your target audience. Now you'll see on the template that it says keep this to 1 to 2 sentences. For this section, we are going to keep it to 1 to 2 sentences. Later on in another section, we'll get more granular into what that audience looks like, but I'll give you an example. My target audience in South Carolina was threefold. It was investors, it was DIY landlords, and it was reluctant landlords. So investors were somebody who meant to buy a property and rent it out. That's the whole reason they did it. And they needed somebody to manage it for them later on because they grew too big. And then you have the reluctant landlords, which I already explained. They inherited a property or they couldn't sell a property when they moved for a job promotion in another state. So now we have to rent the property out so that they don't go into foreclosure. And then the third one was the DIY landlords. And those were the landlords who thought that they wanted to be investors. They weren't reluctant landlords because they actually did want to get into it. They're not investors because they only got one property or two properties. And then after that, it kind of fizzled out the fire to be a property owner for rental properties. So we would step in and we would say, hey, you no longer have to DIY this. We will do this for you. So that was my target audience. It was DIY landlords, investors, and reluctant landlords. And that is as simple as that for this section. So what is your target audience in a nutshell? 1 sentence to 2 sentences, and keep it at that for right now. And then later on, like I said, we'll get into the more granular definition of what those clients look like. So, and the next one is you need to have goals for your first year. And the reason you need to have goals is because when you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner, the government doesn't tell you what success is. There's not a boss out there telling you what success is. There's not a third-party vendor out there telling you what success is. It's you. You get to define success. And that is exciting at first until somebody says, well, what is success? Tell me what that looks like. So it's important for putting fuel into the fire that drives you through that first year, because it's basically just passion that whole first year and hard work. And maybe even a couple years. But you want to put out milestones. And so in the template, I have quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And in there, you would fill out what your ideal milestone would be during that quarter. So I'll give you an example. My first business, when I opened it up, I wanted to hire an employee within the first year. I ended up hiring the first employee within the first 3 months. So that was good. The third business I opened up, I wanted to hire, I wanted to make sure that there was enough people on board within the first 90 days where I was not having to do a lot of the footwork, or at least not run the whole thing by myself. And so those are kind of individual goals for personnel, but I also had financial goals. So in my first business, I think I've said this in other episodes, I paid a loan with a loan. And so I wanted to make sure, and long explanation there, but I wanted to make sure that by the end of the first year, my financial goal was that the business was paying the loan itself without me having to put in my own money. And so I ended up hitting that goal within 6 months. Like I said, I hired my first person within 3 months. There was a lot of goals that came along the way that I didn't even know. And it's okay if those evolve, but you need something in the beginning so that you know what it is that you're shooting for. If you have something to shoot for, then you can take aim. And when you can take aim, you can be more direct with your actions. So it's important to set those goals for the first year so that you know what you're doing there. And then lastly, what makes your product different? What makes your product competitive? So there's a lot of people out there that sell insurance. There's a lot of people out there that sell real estate. There's a lot of people out there that have gas stations, that have anything, hair salons, anything you can imagine, tattoo parlors, whatever it is. So what sets you apart? And I will warn you that the answer to this question cannot be, we will provide exactly what the minimum expectations already are. And what I mean by that is, if you say we're going to provide a quality product with good customer service at an affordable price, that sounds really good. But honestly, you know this as well as I do. As a consumer, you expect a good product, a good quality product with good customer service at a competitive price. You did not meet anything that was beyond normal expectation. So that is not a competitive advantage. That's what every competitor should be shooting for. So, and that's what every consumer expects. So your competitive advantage has to be something more than that. It could be your years of experience. It could be the way that you approach it. It could be the way that you describe it. Whatever it is that sets you apart. Maybe you offer something more than what the other folks offer at the same price. And maybe that offering isn't something that great. Like maybe you just offer a money-back guarantee and nobody else is offering a money-back guarantee. Maybe you offer a guarantee that they will get a result within so many days and nobody else is offering that. It doesn't have to be something that's actually tangible that you're offering that is the differentiator, but it does have to be something that you can tell everybody, this is why I'm different and this is why you should buy my product or service. So there is section 1 of the 4-part business plan. Take some time, digest this, and then actually download that template and print it out, or open up your editor and start putting in the parts of that section while you're listening to this again, or while you have your notes next to you. But fill in the parts of that section and get the ball moving. If you want to open a business, these are foundational steps. They are important. And so you obviously know that, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I appreciate your attention, and hopefully I'll see you on the next 3 episodes. And until then, keep charging hard chargers. We'll see you on the next one.